concert pipeline. That's Joe Wilson.
That's Jackie Wilson.
And that's Stephen Jones right there.
I have guest hosts with me today.
Look at you.
Yeah.
What
That's
song
what
was
you-
that?
Come on.
I don't know. I was just feeling it.
Whoa, okay. It was ZZ Top.
Lagrange, yeah. You're supposed to throw in the
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Well, Steve must be mistaken.
Yes.
There it is.
Yes. We're already rolling. Yes, we have a special show today. One
Very
with
special.
no interview, but lots of music where we talk about our favorite band, right? And our umpteenth time seeing our favorite band, Andrew McMahon, and In the Wilderness.
I posed the question at the show. I wonder how many times I've seen Andrew, and in total, and I have lost count. I mean, I lost count years ago, but it's always been on the list. And Jackie's been to quite a few Andrew shows. I've been dragging you along for 17 years now.
17.
We're 38. We're 21.
It's fair.
Years.
Yeah, every show that I've been to has just been magical, honestly.
But this was a particularly magical show.
This was like, I honestly don't know how this show will personally top future shows.
No, this was
We'll get to that too. We'll get to the really special point. We have pictures to accompany as well, so we'll mix those in. But,
Love it.
But because I do want to know why it was so special. But I know, but
our listeners need to know why it's so special.
Yes. But let's talk about Andrew just as a whole first, right? In his music and why we enjoy it so much. What makes these shows special? What is it for you, Joe?
So Andrew in his entirety, there are a couple different things. The common thread, so the first concert I ever went to, the first real concert I ever went to, was at the Mystic Theater in Petaluma. I was a junior in high school, and I walked into a Real Big Fish show, and I didn't know, I went in with my high school girlfriend, and I didn't know anything about a rock show. And I went in, and the band on stage was Something Corporate. And it wasn't the first time I'd seen live music. Obviously, I'd seen it many, many times before that, but it was the first time I'd ever been to a real rock show. And when I came in, I was like, the first thing I thought, and I look young, I looked young then. The first thing I thought was like, wow, those guys are like my age. And I didn't know that they were only a couple of years older, but they were still very young. I think I was 16, so they must have been 18 or 19. And it was their very first tour, and it was the band Something Corporate. And, they played a couple songs, and the only one that I remembered distinctly was Babies of the 80s. And I remember that song because I was like, this song is awesome, because I was born in the 80s too, and I get every single reference he's making right now. And it's a fun song. And, a couple other bands came on, and then Real Big Fish played, and the rest of the night was great. But I went home and I got on Kazaa or Napster or whatever, BearShare, whatever I had at the time. And I looked up Something Corporate. And I looked up, actually I typed in Babies of the 80s because I was like, what is this? And I found the Something Corporate catalog for the time. And what was cool about file sharing apps back in the day was they had everything. They had the mainstream tracks, and they had all these obscure random tracks. And so I got I'm downloading on my 56K modem a 10.5-minute track called Constantine. And I remember it was in this room. Okay. So the room we're recording in right now, where Jackie and I are, is formerly my older brother's room, and then my dad's office. And so when I was a junior in high school, my older brother moved into the front room. So he moved into a different bedroom, and this was the office. This is where the computer was. And I went to this show sometime in the fall, and I downloaded it. And I remember sitting in here on Thanksgiving night, because we'd had dinner and it was just family, and they were out there talking, and I was pretty done with everybody. And I remember coming in here, and that was the first, and I downloaded all these Something Corporate songs. That was the first time I remember being hit with the song Constantine. I'm sure I'd listened to it before that, but that was the first time I listened to it. And I was like, holy shit, this song is amazing. Right. And I had all the weird, obscure tracks that didn't even have albums at the time. You know, they had their audio box or EP out, but Leaving Through the Window hadn't come out yet. And it was just like these weird kind of recordings. And I was so impacted by that song alone that I went and looked up the website, and like they had their AIM names, AOL Instant Messenger names listed, and I added all of them to my friends list, and I was going to message them if they ever came on. And from there, you know, it wasn't really so much that I was like fixated, I wouldn't say, but it's like I always paid attention, right? So I was listening to all the stuff I listened to, and I listened to a lot of music, but I was always kind of like, I always kind of turned one eye back and was like, oh, I wonder what these guys are doing. I wonder what they're up to. And so I listened to Something Corporate, you know, through my entire senior year, and I bought Leaving Through the Window the day it came out because I was like, oh, this album's going to be amazing. And it was. It blew my mind. I drove around with my windows down and that music all the way up for years. Their second album came out and didn't land with me the same way. There are a few tracks on there that I love. Actually, my favorite Something Corporate track is on that second album. But it was just like, it was a moment for me as a teenager to hear this writing that like I really understood. Like I really got what this guy was trying to say, and I really loved the fact that I could dance to it and sing along to it, and also feel
the music was
right?
relatable, and
Yeah, absolutely. And so I went to a few more shows. Like they played the Fillmore with Juliana Theory when I was a senior in high school, and I went to that show. It might have been freshman year. Actually.
Yeah, that was 2003.
So. It was, yeah. So it was freshman year of college.
Yeah.
But I remember going to a few more shows here and there, and moving to San Diego and continuing to rock their shit. And like, I remember playing Constantine for people. Like, I don't know if you remember this, like a few years later.
Yeah. I was one of those people.
Yeah, right.
So Jackie, what did you think of Constantine when you heard that for the first time? What were your thoughts of this 9+ minute song?
You know, I've always been a fan of piano, essentially. I've always been a fan of its sound and the feelings, the emotions, that it can evoke from you. And when he played that song for me when we were just starting
to
babies,
date, for sure.
we were babies, it was such a beautiful song. I absolutely did not mind how long it is. At that time, I was really just absorbing it and thinking like, oh my gosh, like there's so much feeling there. It's one of those types of ballads that you're just kind of like immersed in when you're listening to it. So I really enjoyed it. And that was sort of my first.
Was that the first song you remember hearing by Andrew? And, you know, at the time, Something Corporate.
Truly.
Because I played all his stuff, and I listened to, well, we'll get to it in a second, but Jack's Mannequin's first album. But I remember really
She
loving.
Paints Me Blue definitely was played a lot when.
Yeah, that was a favorite
when
of yours.
we first started dating.
Yeah. And I remember that first album, you know, that first Jack's Mannequin album, Holiday for Real is the first track. Everything in Transit.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve, why don't we pitch that question over to you, and then we'll go forward with the discography.
Yeah. So, I mean, my first time listening, do you remember my first time hearing Something Corporate? Because and I don't know why.
Probably I played it for you for sure.
Yes, but do you remember where?
Might have been at work. But it was either at work or it was in the car or it was at Chris's house.
Neither of these places. No. So what I remember is the first time I heard it, which is interesting because I don't know how I didn't hear it before, because I think I was supposed to have an interview with Something Corporate. And so I was doing a live television show at the Napa TV station with an old friend, Stephanie, and you were going to come down and bring the CD and play it, and we were talking about Something Corporate because we were going to have an interview, and you were in Joe fashion at the time, you know, a little bit late. But
I'm always late. What are you talking about? I'm still always late.
No, you're not. Well, maybe because of me.
Whenever I'm solo, I'm pretty good, but yeah, I fucking hate being late, and I'm late all the time.
But so we had a 30-minute show, and I'm sure it was like 20 minutes into the show, you come rolling in with the CD, and we put it in and
I strut in my tiny white t-shirt and my camo fucking cargo pants, and I'm like, "What's up, bitches?"
I'm sure that was what you were wearing, right? And,
with my braces.
Yeah. and so my first time hearing it was Leaving Through the Window was live on TV in Napa.
Oh, really?
And it was this song that I think we should play now that he played from the show at the Masonic. This is I Woke Up in a Car off of Leaving Through the Window. So here it is.
Welcome to the Hello Long Days tour to This is a beautiful room. It reminds me of a spaceship. You think on this Sunday night we could drive this spaceship into fucking crazy town? What do you think, San Francisco? How you doing up top? I know you have seats, and I'm okay with that. But you gotta let your freak flag fly up top tonight. You think you can do that for me this night? I might take you on like a little journey back to a 2002 Warped Tour. You guys feel that? Someone over there? Me and my man, something corporate. We were figuring our shit out, right? We were figuring it out. Cutting our teeth. It's a road trip jam. It's called I Woke Up in a Car. It's Sunday, it's Monday, isn't it? Am I wrong? Sorry, y'all. No, it's Sunday. In New York City, from my sleep behind the wheel. Caught a train to
Yes, that was I Woke Up in a Car. What a great song, right? And this performance also was really fucking awesome. That he did at the Masonic for a different reason, right? And I had told you before, I had seen the set list. I try not to look at it, but he spoiled a couple songs. Andrew spoiled a couple songs on his fan club thing, and I wanted to, when I found out I was getting photo access, I wanted to, know what songs I was going to take pictures of, and which ones I was going to record one song, video of one song, right? And so I recorded I Woke Up in a Car because it was a special song to me for the aforementioned reason. That was cool.
Yeah.
And then at the end of I Woke Up in a Car, as as our viewers who are watching on YouTube saw, Andrew looked aside, caught eyes with me, and then after the line he was singing, said something off to this. He said something to me, and I didn't have ear protection in. I couldn't. I mean, it was loud. It wasn't in the microphone, so I couldn't hear what he said. But I told you guys, I was like, he said something to me, and we got to check it later. And he said, "Great to see you." Which is just awesome. I mean, I've interviewed him a number of times, but it's cool to just have him.
He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. He's just a great guy.
He is. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons he's endured as my favorite musician, is because there's so many yarns that we could go down and spin here regarding Andrew and why he is what he is to us. But one of the things that I think is timeless about him is that he's just a dude. He's a good dude. He is a good guy. Like, he's a nice person. He's generous and giving with his fans. And he makes the time, and the fact that he was like, I know this guy, and I'm sure you'll get into that because we're kind of telling the oral history of Andrew McMahon in our lives. Or at least that's what I started with. But, to roll, to kind of keep that ball rolling, I've seen him countless times, but there have been kind of watershed moments, right, throughout my life where things are changing, and I'm changing and I'm growing, and the music always fits, right? He's our age, let's just say it, because he's pretty much our age. And with that, he has traveled kind of along the same path, right? I mean, admittedly, he's a rock star, but the stuff he writes about is relatable. He's a normal guy who writes love songs and songs about growing up and now getting old and having a family, and all that stuff is super relatable for everyone in his age group because we've all walked the same path. So what I wanted to mention was when he transitioned into Jack's Mannequin, you got an early release version of that album and you burned it for me and sent it to me in San Diego, or you gave it to me. You and Colleen came down and you guys gave me a copy of it. And I remember I played it, and I played it alone in my apartment, probably on my computer's CD player. And I remember listening to it all the way through and being like, I liked it. I definitely liked it, but I was like, it doesn't speak to me, right? And then I broke up with my high school girlfriend at the time, who I'd been dating for, years at that point. And I revisited that album kind of mid-breakup, right? It was kind of one of those things where all high school girlfriends and boyfriends, you break up and you get back together, and you break up and you get back together. And so there's that weird moment where you're it's like blips before you finally separate. And
this is 2005, right?
This is 2004. Yeah. This is 2000. Late 2003, things started to kind of fall apart. 2004, things were definitely done, right? And so mid 2004 was an early, actually probably, anyway, mid 2004 we finally broke up. But I remember listening to that album as I was going through that breakup process, and every single fucking song landed for me. I listened to that first track. I'll never forget this too, because I was sitting alone in my apartment, and I had a 1-bedroom apartment. It was the size of this room, right? It was a 10 by 10 with a tiny little kitchenette. Steve, you went and visited. It was tiny.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it was small.
It was a legitimate studio. I slept.
You had a phone booth in it,
I did
in the apartment.
It wasn't a phone booth. It was a phone terminal. The difference.
Phone terminal. Okay.
Yeah. No.
There's no closure.
No. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember listening to that album. I got home from school one night, and I was going to the JC down there at the time. And I remember putting that album on when I got home. And I've been listening to Taking Back Sunday on the drive home, and probably Dashboard, which we'll get to later. But
we'll get to.
I put the album on, and it was like 9:30 at night, you know, and I was eating like a Subway sandwich, and I stopped in the middle of my sandwich and was like, holy shit, like every single song that he is singing right now is coinciding with my own, you know, situation, everything related to what I was going through. And that album became my theme, you know, my title and everything I listened to for years. I mean, it was probably 2 or 3 years that I listened to that album nonstop. I mean, it was always on. I played that album for you countless times.
Oh yeah.
When we first started dating. And it still to this day is my favorite album of all time.
And I mean, right? Like
right, yeah, it's right there.
I would say it's up there for me. So I mean,
yeah, this is a story.
It really connected for me too. Yeah, I mean, it's.
So why did you relate to it? So, you know, at the time it was a love Lauren, Joe Wilson, but what was Steve Jones doing with his life?
And I mean, I connected with it. I mean, as a fan of Andrew's music, you know, before you did, obviously, you know, I gave it to you. I was raving about it. You were like, okay, you weren't ready for that yet. You know, soon you would say I'm ready, but see what I did there?
Yeah, that was good. Nice connection there.
Yeah, but I mean, I really appreciated the music, just being a fan of Andrew and his live show and his music, and you know, and and everything with Andrew, it's something corporate, but really what made it permanent in my a permanent staple in my life was when he broke up with something corporate, and in May of 2005, you know, I was living in San Francisco State, going to school there, and you know, timing worked out. He had given me his email address when I met him when I was in the fan club with the K, you know, to set up an interview because he's always busy in San Francisco. He has family here.
Keep telling that story. I'm going to come right back. Keep telling.
Okay, and so at that. You know, so the next time he came in, he wasn't with something corporate, but I emailed him and I was like, hey, you free to do an interview? And it was a small show at Bottom of the Hill in San Francisco. His first, one of his first shows with Jack's Mannequin. And so he put me in touch with his publicist and she set up the interview. You have it handy. Oh, that's awesome.
Boom. The fan club. With a K. I was number 0686. So I was the 686th person of 999 people.
You never cashed in on that though, right? So
what's
like
that?
You never cashed in on that.
No. Yeah, I'm hoping this gets me backstage one day. I'm gonna wear it in and be like, I'm in the fan club. And then the other thing I'm going to interrupt your story with is one of my most prized possessions. Yeah, so it's a sealed copy of Something Corporate's very first album called Ready Break. I bought it off eBay for like $50 when I was a kid, and I've had it ever since. And you know, it's still cellophane wrapped, and maybe one day I'll open it. You know,
probably not, but
open
you should
it to have Andrew sign it. I don't know.
I opened mine in front of Andrew the first time I met and interviewed him, and and had him sign it. She's just hair.
Andrew with those glasses and the hair, it was so good. Oh man, he was deep in emo at that time. He was just like
his face in this picture is just too much.
I know. And what's great about this too, this photo, is it's missing their guitarist, right? William Tell had left the band at this point. William Tell had moved on from Something Corporate, and this was the first time Bobby Raw joined the band. He wasn't in this photo because he wasn't an original member, but he started playing with them, and Bobby is still playing with Andrew.
And
Bobby and Andrew have to be like the closest friends, right? Like I can only imagine.
And I was there for Bobby Raw's very first show with Something Corporate as well, you know, because I was in San Jose. But
I didn't know that.
It was. I mean, it wasn't announced that William was done. You know, that was the first one where it was a radio station show, and that's where I interviewed Andrew, and then found out later about Bobby, you know, taking over, which is really awesome. But I mean, to finish that story, so Andrew came to my apartment at San Francisco State, where we cleared out the living room completely of all furniture and everything. We set up 3 cameras, lights. We had wireless microphones.
He's saying he's talking about his roommates at the time, right?
Me and my roommates. Yeah, and Ryan I had help from friends in the TV production department that I was in. Yeah, the group was all there, and so we had all the
Steve
furniture in
had
the
this
bedrooms.
director's chair. I have to tell this story. Steve had this director's chair that he hauled everywhere with him, and it was like his interview chair. Like I'm not even fucking around. There was a point in time when Steve would like bring that with him to sit down on.
Did it
I
say
never
Mr.
took it to
Jones
shows.
on the
I never
back?
took it to shows.
You took it to one. I don't remember what show it was, but you were
I don't know
interviewing
that
somebody
happened.
in the sunlight in a parking lot, and you guys were sitting in those
I took
chairs,
what-
and you looked absolutely fucking miserable.
Tenacious
I don't
D.
think that that's real.
No.
No, I know.
It was honestly like it was a band that went on to be big. Like it was a small band at the time, and they went on to be big.
My Chemical Romance. Kidding.
I don't think I ever carried it anywhere, but I did carry it around and drag it with me, and it got moldy and gross in the garage, and then I just had to throw it away. I was like, "This is gross and done." But that interview was very important to me. You know, I mean, because for someone whose music I related to so much, and it was, I mean, Joe, you know, you've been so influential in my, you know, building my music taste at the beginning of when I needed a kick in the ass there, you know, and Something Corporate was one of those first bands for me that did that, you know, I mean, that I really connected with, right? And
I
so
always think about your music tastes when I met you as like undeveloped. Like you had an ear for music, so you knew good music, but it was like 6 years behind your age. So like you were like, oh man, Smash Mouth. And I was like, yeah, Smash Mouth was fucking sick when we were 13, right? But now we're 19, 20.
Were they really around when we were 13?
Like 12, 13, Smash Mouth. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
But like that was always how I thought of your music taste, was like, it's there. It's somewhere back in 1996, and it needs to jump forward to where we are right now.
I guess it was very commercial, very mainstream.
Very, yeah.
Alice,
3 was definitely a heavy listen for you. You listen to a lot of pop music for sure. It was very mainstream pop music.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, Steve.
No, I love pop
nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Okay, thank you. But
no.
yes, so that interview was very cool to me because he came to my home, really.
I wonder what
the
fuck. I wonder what the fuck that was like for him. Like, I'm gonna get in the car and I'm gonna drive to this random dude's house who fucking emailed me, and like
San Francisco.
he walks in and he's like, "Holy shit, there's cameras and a light and stuff." Like,
what is that?
It was legit. Like, I mean, like, and I did the shit out of that.
Yeah, Steve was sweating under the lights. Like, there's perspiration on the top of his head and shit.
I was offered for him. I was offered by the publicist for him to do a performance too, and I turned it down because I just didn't feel comfortable and confident to do
You're
it.
like, that is so awkward.
Huge fucking mistake, bro.
I know. I regret it a little bit. I don't regret a lot, but that would have been awesome. But and then to just take it down a notch, a couple weeks later, I read on Polestar.com, music news website, that he was diagnosed with acute lymphatic leukemia, and it just blew my mind, and I couldn't imagine the world without him. And luckily, it didn't lead that way. And he tells his story time and time again, and does so much good from that.
We all know the story. So same time, different location. I'm living in San Diego. Steve's living in San Francisco, and Jack's Mannequin is doing their very first tour, and they're opening for. Fuck, I don't remember.
It wasn't even opening. They were just playing their own shows in small places.
Is that what it was? So
because they played Bottom of the Hill.
I saw them at Soma, which is like a legendary San Diego club. It's where Blink-182 got all their first shows and built all their hype.
But it was a small room at Soma. It wasn't the main stage.
It was not the main stage. So I had seen shows at Soma. Which was just a few blocks down from where I worked at In-N-Out Burger and a few blocks from where I lived. So I walked to this show, and I'd seen Modest Mouse there, and I went to this Something Corporate show, and I remember being like, wait a minute, we're not walking into that room, we're going into this room. And it was like a much smaller auditorium, and there were maybe 300 people, and Jack's Mannequin took the stage. And at this time I'd heard the album you'd given me, and I knew the songs, but I wasn't like, oh, I love this. Like, it didn't mean what it did to me later. And I remember watching them play. And at the time, Andrew was sick, but undiagnosed. Like, he didn't know. Nobody fucking knew that he had cancer. No. And I remember watching him play. And I distinctly remember being like, man, he seems really fucking tired. Like, his energy when he played with Something Corporate was like, he was dancing and singing and moving around and jumping and on, always moving, always constantly engaging. And he literally came out and he played these songs and was like, there was no rapport with the crowd in between. He seemed very somber and very toned down. And then later, you know, and I pieced it together from interviews he's done over the years, like it turns out the first signs that he had cancer was he was sick, but he was really tired all the time. He just didn't have the energy for these shows. And I remember they only played like 8 songs. Like it was a really small set. And I remember being like, wow, that was really fucking weird, because I saw them a year ago as Something Corporate and they kicked ass at the same location. I saw them at Soma and they fucking killed it. And I was like, man, that was amazing. And then Jack's Mannequin was like a year and a half later. It was like a year and a half later. I was like, wow, like they seemed depressed. Andrew seemed sick and tired and depressed. And little did I know that he was actually fucking deathly ill.
Yeah, he didn't know.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I remember being like, dude, what the fuck? And then finding out he was sick from you. You called me and you were like, dude, Andrew's sick. And I was like, what do you mean? Oh, he has fucking leukemia. And I was like, what? Like it blew my mind that even in that moment, I was like, what? Like, and it all made sense for the way that he had performed in that previous show. So, you know, fast forward, you know, probably 15 to 30 shows to today, which was 3 days ago when we saw him live. And he fucking killed it, right? That was an amazing show.
And we should play another song right now that he did. And this is one that was also a secret for the tour, where he reached out. He'd been texting with his Something Corporate guys and reached out to Josh Partington on the side, his guitarist, who wrote this song. And so he has never played this on tour without Something Corporate. And he pulled out this song that we're about to hear, which is Hurricane, which is really awesome. Here it is.
So good.
You wanna scream with me?
Hurricane, such a great live performance, and I remember seeing your face show when you saw that he was playing it, and I'm like, I told you I could keep a secret, you know,
Yeah, you did.
because you fucking hate spoilers, and
Fucking hate
Ooh,
spoilers.
he hates them.
And
He
you-
hates them so bad,
you-
and you're really good at spoiling things.
You're spoiler.
but I'm good at holding things sometimes too. So when
Only-
Sometimes.
I mean, I have to
Not
bite.
often enough to be known for like Steve, like the secret holder.
Right.
You're the spoiler.
Yeah, he spoiled Steve.
So I'm very proud of you. Like applause. I'm very proud of
Big
you
hands.
for not spoiling that because that was magical for Joe.
It
I
was.
knew that was magical for Joe.
So I remember before they played that song, there was a second where Andrew was kind of talking and he was
Mhm.
priming it, and he was like, so this is a song I never play because it's not my song, but this is a really special tour, so we're gonna play it. And I turned to Steve and I was like, he's gonna play Ruthless, because that's the other like really good Josh Parkinson song. And he wrote a lot of songs. Like I actually really like Josh's stuff, like the stuff that he wrote in very early Something Corporate days, and that he and Andrew did together. I really liked that stuff, and I thought that Firescape wasn't great, but I always liked Josh as a musician, and I always thought he was really talented. But I turned to Steve and called it wrong, and it was. And I'm proud to say this, and I'm saying this without any exaggeration. As a super fan, I did not miss a single other song. I knew every song he was going to play because he'd play a chord, or they'd start a drum beat, or Andrew would say something, and I was like, "This is the next song he's going to play." And so, Hurricane tied directly into Punk Rock Princess, and the version he played of Punk Rock Princess wasn't the. It was almost like I don't know what to call it. Like there's. He has the Canyon session kind of versions off of his first in the Wilderness album. This is almost like the Canyons version of that song, right? It's not, the full band isn't rocking the whole time. And it was definitely, they came in, but like the way he started it was like that slow intro off of Songs for Silent Movies, I think is the name of the album that they had this version of that song on. So he played Punk Rock Princess, and then Punk Rock Princess, there was no gap. He went straight into Constantine, and he started playing it. And so we've seen him a number of times over the years, right? And someone yells Constantine, inevitably some asshole in the audience yells Constantine. And he always goes, don't fucking do that. Don't tell me to play what I'm going to play. We're going to play a song. We're going to have fun. Yeah. And so he went straight into Constantine, and I thought for fucking sure he was going to do what he's done at the last few shows, where he goes, okay, guys, we're going to pretend I played this whole song. It's going to be magical, and you all are going to sing along. And he goes straight into the very end of the song, right? And then you bring me home, right? So he goes, I thought he was going to do that, but then he started fucking singing the lyrics, and I was like,
oh yeah, you didn't think you'd see that again, because he only really pulls it out once a year for his 11/11 Dear Jack benefit concert at this point.
Well, he stated in the past, I'm not going to play this song unless it's at this show. That's the only time I'm going to play this song. And what's interesting is I had read an interview about why he doesn't play Constantine sometime in the last month, and I remember he talks about how like it's a big commitment for a set list, right? You're playing a 10-minute song. You're playing a song that like definitely hardcores know, but like a lot of the newer fans don't know. And then like getting in the mindset for playing that song is hard for him because he wrote that when he was a kid, right? It was one of his first shows, and it was recorded, and it was so great they threw it as a secret track on that first album. And he's not in that headspace anymore, right? He's moved on with his life, and like Constantine is a thing that's in the past, and people love it, and he loves that they love it, but it's forced, right? It's like a forced thing. And what Andrew really does well is he keeps his energy fresh. Like you come to a show and you're singing along to songs you've heard 100 times or 1,000 times, and you've heard them live dozens times, and you're singing along the whole time and rocking it, and he's feeling that shit. He's singing it too with his heart. He's singing his heart out. He's not just doing a performance and going, "Hey, that was my last song that you guys like, and I'm gonna play this next." He's like, "This song is important to me because of this, and I'm sure it's important to you too." And then he fucking kills it, and he really sings it. And so Constantine is a song that he doesn't want to do because it would be forced, right? Not only is it a big commitment for a set list as a 10-minute song, but it is a forced song if he's not feeling it. And so it was cool because this is the Hello Days Gone By tour, I think is what it was called. And it was essentially like a love letter to 2002, 2003, where they just played a bunch of deep cuts from people who were in our age group. I remember Dashboard was on, not to skip ahead, but Dashboard was on, and the guys in front of us, Chris Caraba was like,
Right.
what does this song sound like? And Jackie was dancing and grooving, and she goes, 2002. And the two guys in front of us turn and look at each other, and they go, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
It was so fucking funny. Because it was a moment where all of us were like, we're all on the cusp of middle age, and some of us have crossed over into middle age. I mean, we're getting up there, and these songs are from our childhoods, but it's great that Andrew still wants to play them and still wants to indulge us, because it was a real treat. I mean, it was like eating an entire chocolate cake to yourself.
So I want to get to
With no regret.
I know. I want to get to the part that Jackie loved the most about the evening, before we get into Dashboard stuff. And by the way, stick around to the end of the podcast. We're going to close out with Constantine at the end. So if you have an extra 9 or 10 minutes,
Jackie's talking about cake, and she's thinking cake.
Cake.
No regrets.
Jackie, why don't you tell us about what made the show memorable for you among Andrew shows?
I mean, so we have been, the three of us, the trio, we have been to many an Andrew shows. And actually one that had always stuck out in my mind was when Joe and I were living in Santa Monica, and you came down and we went to the Viper Room of all places.
Yeah, I had driven down that same day and spent the whole day at Disney.
Right.
We left in the fucking middle of the night. I left at 1 a.m. in the morning or something, right? Middle of the night to get to Disneyland by the time they opened. Did a day at Disneyland with the whole family. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to Andrew with you, because you had extra tickets. It wasn't even a plan, except your friends fell out of that show. And you had an extra ticket. So I'm like, I'll leave my family at the hotel and I'm coming to the show with you. And fucking made that happen, right? Yes.
In perfect Steve fashion.
And then
Right.
a minor sub note on that show, that was the very first Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness performance.
Oh,
you
that's
say
right.
that, but it wasn't.
God,
It
that's
wasn't.
right.
No,
He wasn't
Andrew.
It was just Andrew.
I'm sorry, he wasn't Andrew McMahon of the Wilderness. It was just Andrew McMahon.
Solo.
And he played the Pop Underground. He played the
Yes.
whole EP of the Pop Underground, and he closed out with the song that you're going to tell us about right now, with your moment the other night.
Ooh, I hope I don't get this wrong, because I've had. Yes, okay, that's right.
I have notes.
Okay, good,
so
good.
That
cut
show,
that part.
Cut that.
that show to me was super special, because not only was it incredibly personal, because the room in and of itself is so small.
It's like a couple
it's
hundred people,
very
300 people.
tiny venue. It's very cozy. But then we actually had the opportunity to stand there and talk to Andrew and like just have this one-on-one, like, you know, this dude come over and we're telling him how much we love his music, and he's just chopping it up with us. And, you know, some random fan like kept jumping in all our pictures, and I wanted to punch her in the face, but I didn't.
Oh,
but
she was fine.
she was annoying.
That was the first time I ever met Andrew face to face, and prior to that,
he was such a treat. Oh, he was such a
he was
doll.
very sweet. And he took the moment to stand there and listen to me be like, I've listened to your music for 10 years, and I just love your stuff, and you're just so great. He let me gush and was super cool, and said thank you a million times. And you know, the only other time I'd ever talked to Andrew was I called Loveline. When Something Corporate was on Loveline, I was a senior in high school, and you could find it if you YouTube Joe versus Something Corporate Loveline, it'll pop up. But there's a recording of me, and what I did was I called in and wanted to just talk to them, and Andrew was screening phone calls, and he goes, okay, we're going to put you up to this. What I want you to do is I want you to get on the line. They're going to put you on, and I want you to get on the line, and I want you to accuse, and I think at the time it was either Josh or Clutch, of sleeping with your girl. And I want you to call them out, and then I want them to tell their story. And I go, okay, done. So he puts me on. I'm like, yeah, I'm not too good at him. I'm real bad. And I don't know. I took on like this weird accent. And I was like, he was like, they were like, we're from the Midwest. And I sounded like I was from the city. I sounded like I was like a Brooklyn accent or some shit. I was like, yeah, I'm not too good at him. I'm real mad right now. And it was just ridiculous. And that gave them the perfect end to tell this story about how Josh or Clutch had jumped out of a window because this guy's girlfriend, this girl's boyfriend had come home while she was in this bedroom with him, and like was like, where the fuck is he? And he like ran down, you know, the fire ladder, down the fire escape. And so Andrew put me up to that, and it was the only other time I talked to him. And I remember after
That's
I
where
did
fire
my,
escape came from.
that's right, that was the inspiration.
Right.
I remember after the bit, they put me back on the hold, and then I cycled back in, and Andrew was like, dude, that was awesome, man. Thank you so much. All right, bye. And like, that was it. Like, and so I never met him or talked to him other than that. I missed him at the Warped Tour when I went. He was doing something else. I met all three of the guys in the band outside of William had left at that point. But I didn't meet Andrew. He was doing something else. So and he'd always kind of eluded me at all these shows and meet and greets. And so I finally got to meet him at the Viper Room. It was super special because he played that AP, and it was the first time I'd heard any of that music. And this particular song in that moment, like, stuck to me. I was like, fuck yeah, this song is awesome.
Yeah.
And so
Jackie, tell us about it.
So Jackie, tell us about your moment at the show.
And go. So something that he's been doing at his shows over the past few years that we've been seeing him is during Synesthesia, he'll have like beach balls or some sort of color or whatnot.
He's got one of those big, like, flappy tent things that little kids
He
play
did
at.
that for
So
one tour.
it just takes you,
Like
it takes you right back to your childhood.
Yeah, and it's just so much fun. And I mean, that's not even mentioning like Andrew's surfing around on a rubber ducky, like a blow up rubber ducky along the
This
audience.
blow up rubber ducky was camo. I couldn't help but
It
notice.
was camo
I was like,
this
what is
time
going
around.
on?
But so, you know, that's always special, right? Like interactive there with the fans. He's very known for jumping in the audience as well and singing and stuff. And the three of us were positioned not necessarily
Back
in
center.
the total back,
No,
but like
we
when
were-
it comes
we
to
were-
standing area,
We're on the floor.
we're on the floor, back center on the floor. And Andrew's like making his way through the crowd, and we would never think that he'd be in our area. But then sure enough,
Spoiler Steve.
homie comes up with his light bulb cape and starts singing with us. And
No. So he engages the group before us, and Steve goes, he's right there. And I was like, I can't see him because he's super short. And then he gets even closer, and then he crosses to the group right adjacent to us, maybe 10 feet away.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, singing
like,
along
we're just watching him go like, yeah,
and then
Andrew.
he turns and comes fucking straight
straight
towards us.
to us.
And I was like, holy shit. And so like, I'm like, whoa. And he fucking grabs Jackie, and he's like, I can
he
love
puts
you.
a hand on my
On the
shoulder,
shoulder.
and he's like singing to me, and I could cry. And I
Yeah.
was like singing
There's
back.
this really great moment.
And
with
I
it,
just felt
Steve.
like my heart was coming out of my chest. So I
Yeah.
had my hand on my chest, and I was like, just trying to sing to him and give him the same glory that he was giving me, which it just wasn't happening. And I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry. I'm just not you, buddy. I can't. I tried. But
you did great. You did great. You
but
had this
he-
moment. Steve caught a photo of you doing this while he had his hand on your shoulder. That right
oh,
there.
there it is.
And you were singing, I
was
can
singing
so
so
love you
hard.
in the falling rain. Look at me trying to
Wow,
be
you look
in
so
the moment. I'm
so
like,
stoned.
look at Andrew.
Joe's like,
Steve, I must say,
Joe's
I'm
like,
very
yes,
happy
you
that
can
you
get
had
with
that
my
picture.
girl.
Huh?
Yeah. Joe has this look like, yeah, you can get with my girl. It's cool. You know?
Yeah.
I think that look is more like, dude, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I know.
I was just in the moment. I was loving
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
Steve with the selfies, money clutch documentary.
Oh yeah,
status.
my phone did not exist in those moments.
No,
around.
when
I
he was
like,
walking towards
"Meow."
us and he made eye contact with me and then like saw Jackie and saying I could love you in the falling rain, I was like, ugh.
I know. I was
Uh,
like, he said that to me.
And then so
To me?
then I don't think you have the photo here, but he turned and he climbed up on that little bar that's right behind me
Yeah.
Yeah.
and stood up there and sang, which is that photo you had of him standing, and then went to crowd surf and like he like crouched down and was singing.
And he made eye
And-
contact with you. I was
yeah.
watching him, and he was looking
looked-
directly
He
at
looked
you.
right at me and I reached up with my right hand and he took it with his right hand and I put my left hand out and he fucking launched. And then for a moment I was holding Andrew McMahon and that whole song in my hands. I was like, oh shit. And I put my hand on his hip and kind of pulled him forward into the crowd. And I will say this, like fucking glad I left weights, and I'm glad Andrew's tiny, because I was like, whoa, if he was a bigger dude, he would have crushed me. He jumped
I
on
pushed
top
up
of
his
me.
right shin. That's what I had. I
Yeah.
had a right
Yeah.
shin for all of 2 seconds.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, like it was a surreal moment, because he just had that moment with Jackie, and then he like turns and starts like pushing himself up on this bar, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And then he like looked at me while he was singing and kind of gestured, and I was like, holy shit, he wants me to crowd surf him. And I was like, cool. And I grabbed him and launched him into
Like,
this
let's
crowd.
go, buddy.
It was just fucking amazing, man. I mean, I'm actually still kind of buzz when I think about it, because it was such an incredible moment. And it's the thing that like, I'm not going to fucking lie. I'm not going to pretend, you know, you think about that when you go to like 50 Andrew shows, or I've been to so many Andrew shows. I'm like, dude, I wonder if I'm going to have a moment with him. Like, I wonder if at this show he'll see me singing, or he'll see me dancing and give me a nod or whatever. And then for him to like come directly into our circle,
Yep.
sing to my wife, climb up on a bar and have me launch him to crowd surf. It was incredible. I mean, it was a top 5 concert moment of my life.
Yeah.
Arguably the greatest moment of my life, concert wise. Although I will say there's always going to be a special place in my heart for Dave Matthews at the Greek playing Burning Down the House, because that was such a fucking cool moment.
Oh man.
That was such a cool moment. The entire fucking crowd
changer.
exploded when he started playing that song. And I love the Talking Heads. So I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But Andrew singing Synesthesia to me and my friends in that moment, Steve, you capturing those photos. I mean, that's
time. Yeah, good on you, buddy. Because seriously, I didn't even know where my phone was at that moment.
But I kept telling you throughout the show, I was being kind of an asshole, but I was like, put your phone away. Don't be on your phone. Be on, like, and you weren't looking at text. You were trying to record video, and I'm like, you're not going to watch that. Like, be here in the moment. Be part of the show.
I would send them to you, Steve, but they're really not that good.
It's okay.
And there's one where I'm
okay.
literally going, turn it off, turn your phone off, turn it off.
I know. I'm like, so you have
just watch the show. Just watch the show. Don't record it. Just watch. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I insisted, because that was a great song. It was a great moment. Yeah, it was incredible. So yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely a highlight of the evening.
And then Dashboard.
For sure.
Dashboard,
and then Dashboard, like
is that what we're doing with Dashboard?
Actually really lovely. I felt like
great,
I seriously felt like we were in a time warp at that moment.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, oh my God, do we have responsibilities anymore? Or are we just teenagers here out in the city?
Yeah.
Are we kids again?
Yeah.
And it felt so cool. And I thought that out of all of the combos, right, when it comes to, you know, set lists and bands playing together and stuff, I was like, fucking Andrew McMahon and Dashboard Confessionals, come on. Like everyone in that audience was feeling it.
Yeah, that was
absolutely feeling
that was
it.
A middle-aged emo crowd for sure.
It was straight nostalgia show.
There was nothing but millennials in that audience.
Yeah,
right.
Nothing else.
There were a couple of young people, like kind of young. There was the girl next to me, to my right.
She missed out on Andrew.
Sucked, man. She'd been singing along and dancing to every fucking song, so I knew she was down. And I hadn't acknowledged her, but her hair was super long and her hair kept whipping me, and I was like, I don't care. Like, she's having a great time. I don't care. I'm not gonna be like, ew, or like, stop.
Ew.
Right? Ew, your hair. Well, like, hair's gross. And so I'm like, whatever. But she's rocking out, and I'm like, dude, it's great. She's loving it. And then she disappeared, and then Andrew came into the fucking audience and sang.
And you rubbed her nose in that shit, you know?
You
like,
did. You really did. I actually thought that you said too much.
I felt bad. I didn't mean to rub her nose in it. I was more like oh my God.
Here.
I wanted to
he was like here.
But I wasn't trying to be like, you fucked up. I was just like,
you were trying to be like, you should have been here sort of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, but I had to pee.
Yeah.
I know.
And I was like, I'm like, dude, I saw you dancing. I knew you were down. And he actually came right here. And I was like, where's that girl? Because I actually was like, where the fuck is she?
Where did she go?
Yeah, because like,
she was literally right next to us.
Right
it wasn't like she was away. She was almost in her
circle. She wasn't, and she was solo. Didn't look like she was there with anybody. So yeah, I felt bad. I know she's not listening, but if she is, you know, I feel bad, and I think that you should email Andrew and be like, I missed out. Give me VIP.
I missed out.
Right. That's how it works. Well, let's talk about Dashboard. Let's talk about Dashboard for just a little bit.
Much to say. They played all their old stuff. Like,
we'll play a couple songs. Let's play one, and then we'll talk a little bit and play another. They opened with this song. Just Chris Carrabba comes out with the guitar, and he plays this song, and this is the one that I wanted to record. So it was a cool, great solo performance of Swiss Army Romance, and Here it is.
I wonder if you'll help me with the ending bit. Do you know it?
And that was Swiss Army Romance, Dashboard Confessional at the Masonic. And
it's off
and
the that's the title track off the same album. And that was one of two albums I had, in high school. And Dashboard was super integral as part of my growth in a music lover as well, too, because it was kind of my first foray into like singer-songwriter and emo. Like I'd listened to The Cure and I knew the Smiths, but I was never really like into them. I'd heard like What Is Now and like their newer, like their bigger pop stuff, but I wasn't like, oh, I love these guys. And it's funny because as I grew older, I went back and listened to the Smiths' older shit, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. I had those two albums. It's not going to be a seamless cut, but that's okay. Jackie had to go. I really did feel like him playing his older shit for us was like, this was a love letter to the fans. The name of this title of the tour was, Hello Days Gone By. And so it was like, yeah, this is your past, your childhood. And for a lot of us, it was integral music for us. it definitely, I know I played Dashboard for you the first time as well.
Yeah.
You had never heard Dashboard. And, you know, I really liked Chris Caraba's voice. I really liked how he had this weird tuning structure on his guitar. I really liked how his approach to songwriting was telling a story, right? And there were choruses, but a lot of his songs didn't have this like repetitive feel to them. They were like, there was like a narrative that had like a story arc. And I thought that was so fucking cool. And yeah, I really enjoyed his music. So it was really cool to get to sing along with all these songs that I still fucking know. You know, there are a few that I was like, I don't know this song. It's newer stuff. I don't know this song. But it was so cool to be able to get to sing along to all these songs with a crowd who sang along to every fucking song. You know, I wasn't the only person there who was like, oh shit, I know this one. It was like every fucking person there knew every single fucking word to those songs. And it was really, really fucking cool.
Yeah, you reminded me that, I mean, I have no recollection of this first memory, but at the show, you reminded me that I guess I've met Chris Carrabba like 4 times.
Yeah, you met him several times.
So the first time was Further Seems Forever, I guess, right? At the Pound in San Francisco.
Yeah, at the Pound.
And
R.I.P.
And he was supposed to do it, or said he was going to do an interview, and then didn't, and bailed. And then the second time was like a blip, but they played Now and Zen Festival. Alice's concert,
I remember that.
And you're good. And so and I had like a backstage pass to that, right? And so I went and bought his CD there, and then I saw him backstage, and I was like, hey Chris, can you sign this CD? And he signed it, and I just like put it in my backpack, and then he disappeared. Like he was just gone. I didn't even see where he went after that. He
is kind of a sprite. He's a sprightly fellow.
He just like disappears sometimes, right? And then the third time, I was interviewing Augustana, and his band Twin Forks was playing with them, and he said, yeah, I'll do an interview, and I was hanging out just right next to him with him outside, and then Augustana's set ends, and he splits into their tour van, just like right there. And he's like right there, and just like no mention of the interview at all, and it didn't happen. And finally, the interview was set up through official channels, and it happened, and we had a great chat. He's a good guy. He's just squirrely, and you have to. I mean, look,
when you're on tour, you're on tour, and you have to size up every situation as it comes, and like, there's a burnout aspect I think of touring that's like super real. Like, I'm sure the energy is incredible, but like you have bad days, and you have days where like things aren't working, or you have a bad performance. And if you have a couple of those in a row, you might be like, man, fuck this tour. I'll pick it up on the next one. You know what I mean? And so, sweetheart that he is, I'm sure that he was just like off. And at that point, he's like, do I really want to fucking stand around and talk to this dude, or do I just want him to go be by myself for a minute?
Yeah. Just say no is my thing though. Like if you don't want to do it,
yes.
Like,
that's hard. No. That's hard to do. Like you're putting it on them to say no. Like they don't owe you shit. They can just disappear if they want. That's the way I look at it. Is like if they want to leave, they can leave. Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, like the Dashboard aspect of it was cool. I loved that we got to play those songs sing along those songs with him, and he played like the old deep cuts. But yeah, that Andrew performance was something special, man. Between sorry, I'll keep it like this. So he played Woke Up in a Car and She Paints Me Blue, which are my 2 favorite Something Corporate songs. He played Hurricane, which is up there, Punk Rock Princess, and Constantine. So like there's a lot of Something Corporate in his set that he played, right? And then he had his Jack's Mannequin songs in there too. And I feel fucking bad because I'm not talking about his new Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness stuff.
We've talked about him, I mean, he's done it. So
yeah. And I love that stuff, but that's not why I go to his shows. I go to his shows to hear him be like, you know what, I'm going to play fucking Watch the Sky, or I'm going to play Walking By, or the one song. Do you know what the song I want to hear him play more than anything else is?
No, I don't know that I do.
The Caldecott Tunnel.
Okay.
If I go to a live show and he fucking plays Caldecott Tunnel, I'm gonna pee my fucking pants because that is, I mean, it's in my top 3 favorite songs he's ever written, and it's fucking timeless for me. I can still listen to that song today, sing along, even with Andrew's like young and immature voice and like the kind of rough sounding audio because it's not like a well mastered album. I still fucking love that song, man. I love it.
It's a great song. And tying in Andrew and Dashboard, let's play one song that they did together. They did a cover. I didn't know if they would do it because they're, I looked at all the set lists and sometimes they play it, sometimes they don't.
Talk about an homage to emo.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, so this is a cover of, you talked about The Cure a little bit ago. Well, this is the Cure cover, Just Like Heaven, and it was a lot of fun. Andrew hopped in and then he pieced out, and it was pretty awesome. Here's that cover.
Love it.
So to wind us out, Joe, before we get into our
what does that mean to play us out?
Play us out. What does that mean? Oh, I should toss that in.
Mean to play us out.
I love it. It's so funny. I was going to pull that out for 400, which is coming up. Joe will be back on the podcast for episode 400.
Shortly. Yeah.
Yes. It's
I
just a couple months away.
Episode 300 in this exact room right here. So I'll have to get good and silly. I'll have to get a couple beers in me, a little bit of other stuff in there. We're going to have fun.
We'll have some drinks. We'll hang. We'll get
some gummies. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, it'll be good. So this is a fun kind of trip down memory lane, and I love going down this. And I just kind of tied it together in so many ways. I mean, our love for Andrew and his music through something corporate, and what led us, to where we are now, and our appreciation, and really a big part of, of the music for me is getting to enjoy it with, my best friends, right? I mean, you and Jackie are awesome, and going to these shows with you too means so much to me. I mean, to be able to share in those experiences, and really, I mean, the experience that Jackie shared where Andrew came up and was dancing with her, that was so cool for me because, I mean, I've met Andrew a bunch of times. He knows me, right? And so that, which is, it's always cool to talk to him, and maybe we'll talk to him when the album comes out. That might happen, early next year, but that's, that's just cool for me. But getting to share it with you guys, I mean, means a lot. And I told you, like last tour when he was here, I saw him in Wisconsin a couple days before, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Maybe that wasn't the last tour. They're all blend together now. But I saw
Yeah.
2019, right before COVID.
Yeah.
I saw him in Wisconsin, and I interviewed him there. Afterwards, I was like, "Hey, can you do me a favor? I mean, is there any way my buddy and his wife, you can meet them after the show or something, And he said I could sync up with his tour manager or whatever, but you guys don't hang for after the show very well, or you guys are show go.
I'm old.
But,
I want to go home in my bed.
So it didn't happen, but not for lack of my trying. And I knew Jackie would want to meet them, and it's such a big part of your life as well as mine. So it's something I'd like to share, right? So
yeah, I will say this, I absolutely fucking adore Andrew and I love him. I don't know what I would say to him other than that. Like, hey man, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but your music
those Galaxy sessions. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, from the other time I talked to him, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like I think he knows how important he is to the people who care about him, and that's all I would want to say to him. Other than that is like, you're super important to me in my life, and I'm so thankful for what you do, and appreciative of his constant gift. His sharing of his gift has meant more to me than most other people's impact in my life, from a broad scope all the way down to a narrow scale. And so I think I don't think there would be more to say than that, but it is amazing that he's decided to and nurtured, and we've been fortunate enough to take part in his journey with his gift, because it is incredible. And I want to say thank you. That's all I want to say.
Yes. Well, I'll pass it along next time.
Yeah, you're like, hey, listen, I'm gonna fucking Joe. You're gonna stay after the show today. I'm like, no, I gotta go home.
Hey, if we get a Zoom interview, you can hop into Zoom and you could be part of the interview again.
And you're right. You're so great.
You're so great. You're so great. No. Well, this is a lot of fun, and we got to hear some music throughout as well, which is really cool. Definitely one of my favorite concerts, as well as yours. And yeah, thanks for sharing the music, man. So
yeah, thanks for bringing me along for the ride, Steve. I got to give credit to you here too, because I would still be going to Andrew shows even if you weren't dragging me along. But a lot of the energy for those shows comes from you, and being like, hey man, there's tickets going on sale. You want me to wait, and I'll get on at 10 a.m. and buy them. And like, you make a lot of those things happen. It's not because I'm lazy, but like, the thought of like, I have to get in the car at the end of my day, drive all the way to San Francisco, be at a concert, like, and I love live music, but like, be there for an opener and like wait for this guy to take the stage and hope he plays the songs I want to hear, and then drive fucking home and be hungry and go to bed late, be all out of whack for a couple of days. Like, Andrew said it, he turned 40 the day before the show that he played the other night. We're like, you're almost there, and I'm a year and a half away.
Getting close.
Yeah. So it's, getting old.
Well, I was just going to hit it. You're getting old.
So it's a daunting topic to be like, man, I got to go do this thing, and fuck, it's going to be a drive, and fuck, it's going to be a night. But I'm always glad I go. I've never regretted going to one of those shows. Never once have I been like, that sucked. I've always been like, God, that was fucking awesome. I hope I catch him next time he's in the Valley, because he loves the Napa Valley.
He does. He gives Napa some love, and he plays some shows here too, which is cool. But sometimes it's Bottle Rock, and then you have to do a whole festival. And it's not
I would love to see him at Jam Cellars. That private show that he played last time. If he gets that put together, man, I would love to see that, because that would be very, very special.
Oh yeah, that would be. I mean, he played not even the ballroom. He played the Jam Cellars little tiny club where, I mean, it's like 20 people or something.
I think it was 40, but yeah, it's
tiny,
20 seated and standing room at the bar. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a fucking once in a lifetime performance. So yeah, if he ever fucking comes back to Napa and you can jockey that, man, I'm all in.
That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool. Well, for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, that's Joe Wilson.
That's Stephen Jones.
Let's play you out with Constantine. Here it is.
Play us out. What does that mean to play us out?
What do you mean play us out?
but I'm slipping between you and her, baby. Dreams, it's always you, my big dreams, and you tell me it's over. Wake up lying in a patch, four-leaf clover, and you're resting. always miss you. Does anybody need you? Because we all need a little more room to live.